So now is the time to add our Cisco router and switch IOSv. So before we start, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, turn on notification, like the video to get every new update almost every day. So let's get started here by choosing GNS3 here. Just we want to start GNS3, and as you can see, when you start GNS3, it automatically power on the virtual machine inside your VMware workstation here. So let's close out of this window here, and as you can see, in the meanwhile we have GNS3 started here. So let's close this one, and here we can see the service summary. This is your host PC, and this is the statistics of your GNS3 appliance in your VMware workstation. As you can see, now it's ready here. So let's minimize it. Now, as you can see, both of them are green. So before we start adding our Cisco IOSv router or switch, we'll go to Preferences, and here in GNS3 VM, we want to actually add 2 vCPU here, and let's say 8 GB of RAM or more, because we want to add several Cisco IOSv for our lab environment. And later on, we're going to practice Solarwinds network performance monitor with this GNS3 lab. So we'll say OK, and our GNS3 VM, it will reboot it to apply the changes. And in the meanwhile, when we right click on setting, now you can see the setting that we specified apply to the GNS3 VM here. So that's great. So don't try actually to add your memory and CPU here by just, for example, adding memory or things like that, because GNS3 it cannot recognize the changes. You should go to Edit and Preferences, and here on GNS3, here you can increase the CPU and the memory. So that's great. And here we'll click on New Blank Project. Let's say Solarwinds diagram or things like that, and we'll say OK. And now we want to bring our router here and our switches. So here, as you can see, we don't have any router and switch. So first off, we'll click on the router icon, and here we'll select New Template. So we'll select the first option, install an appliance from the GNS3 server. Here we'll say Next, and here we'll select Router, and we'll scroll down. For Cisco, let's type Cisco IOSv here. We're going to install this QEMU file. So we'll select it and we'll say install. And here we have the option install the appliance and the GNS3, which is recommended. And here the QEMU binary is default. And here we want to actually download one of them. For example, we'll click on this one and we'll say download to download the file. So obviously, as you can see, you should log into your Cisco account here. You should have the Cisco account, or you should create one and buy the Cisco IOSv. So let's minimize it. So I already downloaded the file before. Simply when you download the file, it will show up here in download folder, and if you do a refresh, you will see this missing file or this one or whatever is going to be ready. So let's go to my new folder. I told you I downloaded before, and these are the file. This is the Cisco IOSv router file. So simply we'll copy it and we'll paste it here in the download folder. And we'll minimize this window and we'll do a refresh. Now, as you can see, we have this file. That means we can install our Cisco IOSv, but we need this file again for IOSv startup config.img file. It will save the configuration in this file for this Cisco IOSv. So we'll click on this file and we'll say download, and we'll wait for the download link here. As you can see now, we can download this file. Again, the path is going to be download folder of your Windows host. So keep in mind that your Cisco IOSv files should be in the download folder. So we'll say start, and now again we can see this file is downloaded to our download folder. So we'll close out of this window, and again we'll do a refresh. So now as you can see, we are ready to go to install this Cisco IOSv router. And the other Cisco IOS version here, as you can see, their iOS startup config is ready, but again you should download the IOSv file. So we'll click on this one, which is ready. We already download this file and the startup config. So we'll say next. And here it said, would you like to install Cisco IOSv version, the specific version, and it's going to upload, and we'll say finish. That's great. As you can see now, we have Cisco IOSv. So we'll go to switch, and now again we'll say new template. And this time we'll say Cisco IOSv layer 2, and we'll say install, and again next, and we'll accept the default QEMU binary. And here again we'll go to the download folder again. This time we'll copy this one and we'll paste it here in the download folder. So again, I should mention that you should have the Cisco IOSv and the IOSv startup config in the download folder. And again we'll say refresh, and now as you can see, this file is ready to install as a switch in our GNS3 lab. So that's great. So again we'll go to this directory, and let's add another one, something like, let's say router, and here we'll say Mikrotik or things like that. So let's say, for example, this version, and we'll click on next. So sorry, we should download it before. And here is the file, let's say to the download folder. And let's go to the download folder for the file. So that's great. And here we'll right click and we'll say extract here. This is the file that we need to install Mikrotik device. So again we'll say refresh, and we'll select the Mikrotik device that we already downloaded here, and next. And we'll say finish. As you can see, say please wait for appliance file to be uploaded, and finish. That's great. Now is the time to bring our Cisco routers here, and Mikrotik, and the switch. So let's say this one is going to be R1, and this is going to be switch, and this is going to be router 2, and this is going to be Mikrotik. So, and we'll add the connection here between Mikrotik to the gigabit 0/3, and again from gigabit 0/0 to the gigabit 0/0 of the switch, and again here from gigabit 01 to the gigabit 01 of the switch. And let's say here we can see the labels of the interfaces. So let's close out of this, and here we can say show grid. And we want to actually make it better. So here let's say, so that's great. Now this time is much better, and let's deselect show the grid. That's great. And here we're gonna actually start all the devices. So simply we'll say Control Alt and we'll say start. So we'll wait for the device to boot up successfully. Here you can see the console and the summary. For example, each device has its own. For example, here you can see we've downloaded the file, and here we have the error while you want to actually upload the Mikrotik device, and this is another one. This is another error. So now is the time to configure our devices. Simply we'll go to R1 by double click, and here we can see the Solarwinds PuTTY here. So we'll say enter, and we'll go to configuration terminal, and here we should configure, the interface gigabit 0/0. So interface gigabit/0, IP address is going to be 10.10.10.1, and the subnet mask, and let's say no shutdown, and again let's say interface loopback 1, IP address 10.111, and the subnet mask, and let's say no shutdown, and of course we should say no shutdown for the interface gigabit. So we'll say do show IP interface brief. Now as you can see, the interface gigabit 0/0 and the loopback are up and running. So when the command is on exe mode or user mode and we want to actually apply it in the global config or sub interface, you can use a do command here. So let's say exit, and again exit or end, and WR. So we'll go to the second router here, which is our router 2, and we'll double click to open up again another Solar PuTTY. We'll press enter and configuration terminal, and this time we want to configure gigabit 0/1. So we'll say interface gigabit 0/1, and IP address is going to be 10.10.10.2, and the subnet mask, and again interface loopback 1, IP address is going to be 10.221, and again no shutdown. Again we'll say to show IP interface brief. So gigabit 0/1, I think we forget to again say no shutdown. Again do show IP interface brief. So sorry, I thought it is interface 0/0, but it is 0/1. That's great. And now we should ping 10.10.10.1, which is our R1. But of course, we cannot ping the loopback because we want to configure routing between these routers. So if you want to ping the loopback interfaces in these two routers, we should configure routing. So we'll go to the R1, and first time, let's say host name is going to be R1, and let's say router instead of static route EIGRP 100, and network, let's say 10.10.10.0 without a wildcard mask and no auto summary. And again, we'll go here, we'll say edit host name, again it's going to be R2, and we'll say router EIGRP 100, network is going to be 10.10.0 and no auto summary. And now, as you can see, interface 0/1 detects the neighbor with the EIGRP protocol, and this is the new agency. So that's great. Now we should ping 10.10.1, which is loopback interface of our R1, and here again we have the initiate routing configuration on this router. We'll say do ping 10.2 to 1, which is the loopback interface of our R2 router. So that's great. And again, we'll say end show IP route. Now we can see D refers to the EIGRP here. That's great. So if we want to translate the routing here, that means we want to access this routing protocol by this interface with this neighbor router. So that's great. And here again we'll say end show IP interface brief and show IP route. Here you can see the statistics of your interfaces, and this is again the EIGRP protocol. So now is the time to add IP address to either one of our Mikrotik. We'll double click here again to the Mikrotik device, and now we'll say admin with blank password. So let's say, do you want to software license? We'll say no, and here we'll say IP address at address 10.10.10.3 with 24-bit subnet mask, and here we'll say interface ether1. And now we should ping again 10.10.10.1. That's great. And again from here we should ping 10.10.10.3, which is our Mikrotik router. Let's configure our switch to add the new IP address to the VLAN 1. So let's say enable and configuration terminal. Let's say host name is going to be switch and interface VLAN 1. IP address is going to be 10.10.10.4 and no shutdown, of course, and do ping 10.10.10.2 or 1. That's great. And we'll say end and WR to save the configuration. So that's great. So in today's lesson, we learned how we add our Cisco IOSv router and switch and Mikrotik, and we add the IP addresses, we add the routing protocol to connect these two routers through this switch, and of course our Mikrotik device. So next up, we're going to add our Solarwinds server to this lab as a virtual machine inside the VMware workstation. So, and here if you want to close this lab, simply we'll say quit here, and here is say, are you sure you want to exit GNS3? We'll say yes. Is going to actually close this diagram, and of course is going to power off your GNS3. As you can see, it power off. And next up, if you want to again run the GNS3 software, is going to power on this GNS3 VM again.